Good evening, everyone. Good evening for those people who are in Estonia and for those in the United States and in America, a very good morning and also good late afternoon to those people who are in the United Kingdom or in Western Europe. So my name is Silver Tambur. I'm the chief editor of Estonian World, and I'm delighted to say that very warm welcome to the very first Estonian World Live. I hope it's not going to be the last one. Thank you for tuning in on either estonianworld.com, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. I'm also joined by our co-founders, Saar and Sten Hankewitz. Sander is in Los Angeles and Sten is in Chicago. Today is an important day for Estonian World after being recognized by Open Estonia Foundation with a Concord Award. So we are very delighted to receive that award, and the keywords of this year's award are global Estonians and citizen-driven journalism. So quoting the head of Open Estonia Foundation, Mal Hellam, already since 2012, Estonian World has taken Estonia to the world and brought Estonia closer to global Estonians, Estonian expats elsewhere, and to Estophiles. In a world where movement is restricted, the mutual exchange of information and a sense of community becomes even more important. Our vision to be the platform for Estonian voices in the world has never been more important. And we would like to really share the joy and celebrate that with you all together today. It's difficult to talk about yourself when you're usually writing about others as a media outlet, but we thought that we would like to share a little bit more about who we are, how we got started, what are the principles that drive Estonian World, and also about where we are today and how to move forward. It's not an easy topic for us, but we thought that as we've grown and expanded this platform together with the help of many people over the last 8 years, we would like to keep it going together and share our experience and vision with you. And with that, I would like to introduce you to our co-founder Sandra Saar, who, as I said, is in Los Angeles, and he will talk a little bit about our founding story.
I'm very excited to do that, but I would like to take you back to 2012, where Silver and myself both lived in London and worked there as well. We met with Silver at a social event where Silver initially shared the story of Estonian World, or what he thought this should be, a platform for Estonians and the people interested in Estonia to share their thoughts and messages. And we continued discussing that and developing the idea further together, because we both really, while living in the UK, wanted to give something back to the country. And we both believe that this to be the way to give back to the country, but we didn't really know how. So we started looking around, but we couldn't really find anything quite filling the void as a true citizen initiative, completely independent. We decided to go ahead and build that platform ourselves from scratch on estonianworld.com and use the power of social media to bring people together who are interested in Estonia, who are foreigners or Estonians living abroad, to tell those untold stories and sharing new perspective that we couldn't find elsewhere. We started, and we have been on a mission to become the world's largest and highest quality English media brand about Estonia and Estonians. And as Silver said, the vision of becoming the platform, or being the platform for Estonian voices around the world. We have bootstrapped the whole activity and kept it going with our own time and personal investment into Estonian World. Of course, we started small, but we've doubled in size every 2 years since we started it with like 5,000 readers, or we got to 30,000 monthly readers in 2014, to 60,000 in 2016, and 120,000 in 2018. And today we're read by more than 150,000 unique readers every month. And we're super proud and happy what we've achieved, but we obviously never would have done it or foreseen that happening ourselves without the help of the network and the community. Moreover, we've also managed to constantly outperform any of those short-term initiatives that we see come and go, different websites or different initiatives. And we've been growing Estonian World completely organically. Last year, all in all, Estonian World saw more than 1 million unique users on our website. Today, we're read in more than 200 countries and territories. And the top ones are, of course, Estonia, which is about a fifth of our readership, followed closely by the US, the UK, Canada, Finland, Australia, Sweden, Germany, Russia, and many, many others. Technically, we've been updating our website, obviously, to the latest standards every week and investing more time and money to make sure that it performs well, even at the scale that we're at today, and wherever you're reading us from in the world. We went through a major redesign last year, which we hope you enjoyed, while keeping it fresh yet familiar to the Estonian World readers. We are focusing mostly also on building a great mobile-first experience, as we recognize that about 80% of our readers today are using their mobile devices when they're reading our stories, as you might be watching this video also on your phone. Estonian World is now distributed on all of the major social platforms. Of course, Facebook, which houses the largest community for us with around 40,000 followers already. So thank you if you're watching us on Facebook. We have more than 11,000 followers on Twitter. Also, we have a community on LinkedIn, Instagram, and an email newsletter, which is the easiest way and for sure way to get the news delivered. So if you haven't signed up, we encourage you to go to estonianworld.com, and down in the footer, you will be able to sign up. We've also become official partners of Google News. So whenever someone is searching for Estonia or Estonians in Google, we are one of the top ones there, together with the big international publications where people find more information about Estonia. We've also started many communities outside Estonian World. For example, Estonians in London, Spain, India, and many others. We really hope that you found it easy to get to our magazine and had a great experience while reading it. Of course, your feedback is always very helpful. So if you have more to share, feel free to reach out to us in the contact form, and we will, of course, try to accommodate. With Estonian World's founding story, we also came up with some really core principles that are important for us as a citizen initiative and being completely independent. And with that, I would like to hand over to Sten, who will help you and walk you through the principles of Estonian World.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. We're very glad that you found the time and you're interested in our story and our principles. So let me tell you a little bit about what makes us what we are, I guess. We believe that openness makes us larger and stronger in the world. And when we started Estonian World, we made sure to align on some of the core principles to hold true regardless of any time and situation. One thing that's very important for us is the quality of our content. We want to emphasize on original content that stands the test of time. We focus on stories about people, life, opinions, business, culture, technology. And we are happy to say that our stories have been referenced by the BBC, the Business Insider, the Daily Mail. We have a very wide array of followers on social media. For example, the current president of Estonia, Kersti Kaljulaid, the former president Toomas Hendrik. We have prime ministers and other politicians following us all over the world, leading arts, culture, and business executives. The quality of our website is shown in the engagement with, with our content, our stories. For example, just on Facebook, our posts get more engagement every week than any other Estonian-related English language platform. And the engagement per post is usually 3 to 8 times higher on average. And these are fully organic, unpaid posts. And we also have many returning visitors. Our average reader reads more than 2 stories a month. The second core principle is independence. We are impartial. While we strive to be positive, we don't sugarcoat, and we accept opinions and input from across the spectrum. We feel that there are no right or wrong opinions when it comes to journalism, and everyone should be able to express them. And we are informative. In addition to being a magazine that publishes age stories, we also want to bring our readers current news and affairs. And I guess the best example of that is probably our coronavirus blog that we've been kept going for more than 2 months now. We also pride ourselves for the diversity of thought and contributors. We have so far had over 200 contributors all around the world. And in most countries, or at least bigger ones, we have a network of regular writers, ensuring diversity of thought and perspective. And we are extremely grateful to you for that, and welcome you and many others to share your stories on our magazine as well. And now I would like to hand it over to Silver.
Thank you very much indeed, Sten and Sander. So I'm talking a little bit, going through a little bit about what it means to run Estonian World as well, and how we've actually survived so far. So it's when we started, we didn't know where would it take us back 8 years ago. Since then, Estonian World has grown and grown and grown. And we, as Sten already pointed out as well, we edit it as any quality outlet, media outlet. The Estonian World has got 7-page long style guide. We put a lot of effort and work to every story that is published in Estonian World. When a story is published in Estonian World, it's never published just kind of out of the blue. You know, everything we do, we select information, we edit it very carefully, and a lot of work goes behind and thought goes behind it. That is all very, very time consuming. And how have we run it so far? It's been really, as our former Estonian president would have said, sweat, blood, and tears. And probably, you know, he was inspired by the British legendary former Prime Minister Winston Churchill saying that. It's been really, really tough. We've always had other source of income to actually sustain ourselves. But to run an outlet that has got over 50,000 followers now in the social media and is run like a quality media outlet, it's not possible to run it as a hobby. Yeah, it is a full-time job. So it's been really hard, but I would say that the biggest motivator for us has been the support by our readers. You know, your support, your likes, the engagement, and that's really the biggest motivator. You know, if Estonian World had now couple of hundred readers, probably would be difficult to motivate ourselves after 8 years. But we have over 50,000 followers in the social media and 150,000 readers per month. It is really, really shared by a lot of people, and I see that it matters a lot to people who are everywhere around the world. People who had Estonian ancestors, people who love Estonia, Estophiles, etc. Also, talking about a little bit about contributors. We've had over the years roughly about 300 contributors in total. Most of those people have actually done it out of mission, just like us. For us, the Estonian World has been a mission. But saying that, sometimes it's difficult to work purely on a mission, and it's same with the contributors. We have a long list of ideas we would like to do with the Estonian World. We have hundreds of ideas actually. So when people recommend us, can you write about this? So would you like to? Yes, we would like to, but to do that, we need more people, more resources, and that is one of the reasons, or actually the main reason, why we have now asked also a support from our readers. We have set up a Patreon page actually a while ago, and now we've also set certain goals there. If you go to Estonian World's Patreon page, you will see it, or if you look at estonianworld.com site under the supporters page, you will see the goals. So I'm going through the goals briefly again. So goal 1 is actually keep Estonian World going, and we've calculated our costs, which means paying half a salary to editors and cover web hosting and technical costs. And that comes to $3,900 per month. It's roughly about 3,700 euros, something like that. That's just to keep it going, to keep it going with the level we have. And the second goal is keep Estonian World growing, and that is calculated as $7,300 per month, and that means the full salaries for both editors and covered technical costs. And the goal 3, which is obviously our ideal, is to keep Estonian World expanding, and that is meaning also paying for contributors and actually publishing more engaging content. So, yeah, more engaging, more feature stories, more interviews, more all the traditional media stuff. Little bit also about our partnerships, because people have asked us, about partnerships. Some of the readers have asked, why don't you ask support from others? And saying that, we've actually had quite a few partnerships as well over the years, and that has also helped us. Just like some of the readers have supported us already over the years by donating to Estonian World, but also we've had few partnerships. But with those partnerships, they are not at the moment 100% sustainable in a sense either. They are like sort of one-off partnerships when, for example, Estonian startups advertise themselves, so it's marketed content. And we've also had few partnerships with some of the Estonian institutions, but we've also seen that these are unfortunately not very sustainable, because for numerous reasons, which probably would discuss again. But I think maybe would be good now to actually let you, our readers, to also ask questions. I think it's a good way to directly interact and ask your comments and questions.
Right, we have some questions already here. So let's get through these and see if we can find answers to those. One of the questions that has been asked us is, has Estonian World been supported by someone else? I guess you, Silver, covered a bit, but Sander, do you want to add something about this?
Sure. I mean, Estonian World has been, of course, supported primarily and first and foremost by you, our readers and our viewers. And that has been through Patreon, which has been the platform of choice for us to enable you to give a monthly recurring fee that will help us keep Estonian World going in the expected realm that just Silver walked you through of the different goal levels. We've also been supported through PayPal, and some of the Estonians before, and also people interested in Estonia and foreigners supporting us through one-off payments. And we've also done some sponsored content on Estonian World with different activities. It could be different startups or study in Estonia, Estonia 100, but that's been very limited for us. That's been usually one-off and generally not helping us as much long-term and doesn't help us get to a sustainable way to run Estonian World. So we have had a pleasure and a chance to work with many partners, but we believe the best way for us forward and for you also to help Estonian World to keep going is to work on Patreon on a monthly support, and that's been the best way for us to keep it as a going independent, truly citizen initiative.
Okie doke. Silver, I guess this question is for you. Again, you covered it a bit already, but let's emphasize these points again. How can people support Estonian World?
Well, I think the best way is really through the Patreon platform, because Patreon is meant for creators and people to subscribe. So it's easy to just sign up. It takes a few minutes. For as little as $2 per month. And we have different tiers. So it's possible to also support with $25 per month, and for companies $200 per month. I think this model would make sense. It's like traditionally we would go to buy a newspaper before the internet age and pay for the paper. On these days, we don't do that anymore. But you know, the content we provide is exactly the same like in old days. People running newspapers, you know, you have to pay for the things. So I think the Patreon would be the best way. It's also possible to, yes, as Sander already mentioned, to support via PayPal, and of course for companies, it is possible to advertise, as increasingly number of startups are doing that. So rather than having a banner, we actually write a story about a certain company, and that's a paid content. So that's, I think, the best way. I would also actually add here that about the Estonian World's impact. So that's really meant for companies who would like to advertise themselves. I just recently spoke to one of the very well-known Estonian startup entrepreneur. And actually, he said, and he was even surprised a little bit, he said that, you know, the New York Times, the New Yorker magazine's journalists, they read Estonian World because they contacted him after reading an article about an accelerator, which was actually organized just in early April during the coronavirus crisis. And that accelerator, you know, we wrote about it, and then the New York Times and the New Yorker magazine contacted him. And then, you know, we've also been mentioned during the last few years in a BBC and other, you know, media outlets, major global media outlets. So that just shows the level of reach Estonian World now has, and the leverage.
Alrighty. One of the questions that we've been asked is why are we not asking for government support? Silver, do you want to discuss that?
I can, but maybe Sander, do you want to comment on that as well?
Absolutely, yeah. We have asked, is the honest answer. But what we found is that there is no mechanism currently to support us. Most of the work that is put out there is project-based. And the project-based work for us is not really a sustainable way to keep Estonian World going. The other challenge that we found in discussions is that we, as a Estonian World team, this is the core team in front of you now, and we have limited resources, and we are very focused on content. And Sil will walk you through on the editorial focus and making sure that all of the great stories get told, rather than focusing on building a massive admin infrastructure behind the scenes, which is required in order to write up the projects, report on the projects, and get even the project-based support. So definitely we are open for it, and we believe that there's a lot of benefits that not just the people interested in Estonia and the foreigners get from Estonian World, but also the benefit that the country gets from it. As Sten mentioned, like if you even aggregate all the other English Estonia-related online publications together on Facebook, the engagement even in aggregate doesn't come close to Estonian World alone. So we see that it has a great impact, and we would love to obviously have more collaboration with the government as well. But so far, it's been challenging on both sides, I guess, from our side to have those resources, admin resources available, and building mechanisms from the government side to enable citizen initiatives such like Estonian World.
I would just like to add here that we've had really good collaborations as well over the last 8 years, and for example with the Estonian Foreign Ministry, and generally talking about Estonian diplomats and foreign service, they really value Estonian World a lot because they work abroad. They see the stories that are relevant to global audience, and they have shared our stories, and they have been morally very, very supportive. And when we started, actually, it goes back to our founding story, but when we started back in 2012 in London, then the Estonian embassy in London was one of our first sort of moral supporter. You know, they shared those stories, and so we've had some really good relationship with them. But of course, yeah, as already mentioned before here as well, we are an independent media outlet. And we do not want, actually, in an ideal world, to have two sort of cozy kind of relationship with the state or the government, because that would not be what the independent media outlet should be. You know, so the ideal world is that we are 100% independent, and we can run it editorially independently, and that's how it should be in a free, transparent world. And that's why I think it would make sense that it's supported not by the government.
Many people are actually under the impression that Estonian World is a government outlet, and they don't understand why we need support. So let's emphasize again, have we been paid by the government?
We've never been paid by the government. We have had few stories as a paid content that's been funded by certain departments, or for example, 3-4 years ago, a few stories, I think, with Enterprise Estonia, but there's been like handful of stories. Otherwise, Estonian World has never been funded by the government.
Alrighty. One of the questions that our readers have asked was, what have been some of the most difficult parts in the development of Estonian World? Silva, do you want to discuss the hard life of an editor?
The most difficult part. Well, of course, it has been the most difficult is actually to run it as a professional media outlet on a daily basis. Though we don't. The other thing is, of course, we never said it's like a news site. We always said Estonian World is like an online magazine. But okay, imagine this: if it was a paper, it was probably a weekly paper or a magazine. But still, even if you're running a weekly paper, you actually need to work on a daily basis with it. Because the weekly paper, it's not prepared a day before. It's prepared throughout the week. So, you know, that's been obviously a huge challenge to run it on a daily basis with very limited resources. And this is the thing, you know, very limited. When people see Estonian World, quite often I've also heard some comments that it looks like an expensive site. Well, it does look good, and that's thanks to all of us and Sander, who's specifically responsible for the design and technical side. But actually, you know, we've done it all with very limited resources, with a lot of our own resources, and that's been obviously very, very challenging. I don't think it's challenging to find the content anymore. It was maybe difficult at the beginning, but now, because we've already been so established, we actually have so many topics and content we would write about. But yeah, the issue is really the lack of people to write those stories up and resources. But as already mentioned before as well, you know, throughout those challenges, what has motivated us really is the support and engagement we get from you, the readers, and that's been obviously keep us going.
And if I may add, writing a story is not just like that you sit down behind your computer and then write something and post it. It takes time and energy to research, to talk to people, and to make sure that the content is properly formed, it's informative, and people would want to read it. And the same thing with editing, like copy editing, that when we get a story from an outside writer, then editing it also takes time and energy. And it's not like we are like basically sitting on our hands. We are actually working to ensure that the content that you get is high quality and you get the most information from it.
That is true. Editorial process. I mean, we now, enough, 8 years may not seem like a long time, but for us and for me anyway, 8 years now feels like it's been maybe 16 years. It just feels like it's been a long time. And with that 8 years, we've actually become the longest running Estonian English language editorial team. There's no other team who's worked 8 years in a row consistently like we have done. But indeed, it is time consuming quite often is to ensure that quality. If I think our most consistent readers, or the people who've followed our process since day one, have seen that the standard we've had already now, I think 4 or 5 years, it's a very set standard. So if you look at the Estonian World story, you will see how it's built up, how the layout looks like as well, up to the subheadings, the length of the paragraphs, etc. That's not a coincidence. That's because the Estonian World is based on very set quality. And I already mentioned our style guide is 7 pages long. Now, to ensure that quality is sometimes time consuming, because when we write, we've already set to that standard. We created that style, style guide and standard. But of course, when we're talking about some of the contributors, quite often they're not yet used to that one, and then it takes time to actually to achieve that quality. And that sometimes means that I would send the story back, ask to rewrite the story, or quite often I also, and me and Sten, we can rewrite the entire story to actually achieve the certain Estonian World standard. You know, so Estonian World is that's another thing. Is sometimes I hear like some people say, you know, they say like they use the word blog. Well, it's very different from a blog, because when you're running a blog, or you're writing your personal blog, you sort of write as a person. You know, you express your own personal opinions and stuff. Estonian World is not. It's not like. I mean, it is personal, but it's not a personal in a blog sense. It is like a media outlet on its own, which, you know, we created, but we also adhere to that sort of certain rules. It's not like, you know, I'm doing like I want, and another person is writing how they want it. Estonian World is already like an institution on its own right, you know. And that means that if, you know, I start doing something else, Sandra starts doing something else, or Sten starts doing something else, Estonian World already has got this own sort of brand, own quality, own set of standards. Maybe I made it a little bit too confusing now, but I hope I got the point across.
I think you did. Okay, one of the questions that have been asked us, I guess, the most is, why don't you show ads on Estonian World?
Absolutely.
Sandra, do you want to take
That's a great question. That's been one of the principle from the early on when we started with Estonian World, that we do not want to litter the site. We want to focus on quality content. We don't want this to be a click bait for readers, so that we'll only push out articles so that we can get as many page views and as much advertising revenue in as possible. This has never been our goal, and we don't want to compete with that journalism. However, so the number one area is user experience. We want the site to look clean. We want the site to focus on content and the quality content that we put out there. Number two challenge that we found with ads, or considering ads, is also the targeting capability. Meaning, like, yes, we could let Google run ads, but then those ads will not be relevant for or related to Estonian World. They will be related to that individual's interest, whatever they're searching for. If someone who's buying shoes, then we will become a shoe ads outlet. And again, this is not necessarily the experience that we want for our users. And the third real focus is the audience size. We also found out, yes, we do have 150,000 monthly unique readers, and many more page views, of course. The audience size would not be big enough to build sustainability into Estonian World. What it would contribute to it, it wouldn't be making us sustainable. So we would still need to work with you, our readers, to help you run Estonian World and contribute to Estonian World. So these have been the reasons why we have not decided to show ads. We have, if you consider it ads, run sponsored content, as Silver mentioned, and we're open to doing that in the future as well, about being completely transparent to our users that, hey, this piece is sponsored by this and this outlet or company. So we want to be fully transparent and disclose all of that. So in that sense, we are running sponsored content, but not in the sense of banner ads or littering the site and ruining the user experience. Those have been mainly the reasons, but we have seriously considered it, of course.
Right. Here's a question that kind of aligns with the previous one. Have you considered using a paywall?
Yes, of course. As any independent publisher, we considered using Paywall, of course. The challenge that we found with Paywall is we started Estonian World to be the platform of different voices around the world talking about Estonia and Estonians. And we feel that if we put a paywall in front of it now, it means that we're leaving out people who might not have that income level to allow paying $2 or $5 a month to get access to those stories. So we would limit our impact and reach, which was the reason why we started it in the first place. We wanted to give back to Estonia while living abroad. So the number one is to focus on impact, and we feel that we can only achieve that by being a free-to-read medium. And we don't want to exclude anybody based on their income level. However, we are considering now potentially doing exclusive content for our supporters. And that's why also we're focusing on Patreon and letting you all know about it, that exists as an option, because we want to invest more time and effort in building even better stories, longer stories, video stories, and potentially make part of that exclusive for our supporters. But we haven't done that yet, but we are considering that as we go through this journey of building Estonian Worlds around the world.
Okay. One of the questions that has been asked us is, do you have any political biases? I can answer that. No, we do not. We have journalistic values, but we are completely impartial.
Yeah, I would like to add here, it's, I think general rule in Estonia, at least, is that journalists are not members of any political party. Even though, you know, in the UK and America, you could say that some media outlets have a certain bias, and you know, we know that, you know, that the Daily Telegraph in the UK will, you know, supports the Conservative Party, and the Guardian tends to support the Labour. In Estonia, it's not like that. The Estonian World was not set up to be a political outlet, and I think in most of our you know, we've published now almost 3,000 articles. Very few of them are actually sort of political topics. There have been, obviously, we've run opinion section. We started that a little bit later than we first started. I think it was like a year later. So, us opinion section by default is that, you know, it represents different opinions all across the board. And if you look at our opinion articles, everyone can see it clearly says, the disclaimer says, the opinions here are those of the author or authors, if it's you. Does not represent necessarily the media. Well, it certainly does not represent Estonian World's opinion as a whole. It may be that sometimes one of us may agree, but you know, it's not representing Estonian World. The other point I would like to make here is that yes, the Estonian World has certain values, but these are not aligned politically. What we said, I think I wrote that letter from the Editorial. I think it was November 2012, just a few months after we started, and I did say in that editorial that we would like to stand up for Estonia that is respecting everyone, regardless of their background, you know, religious beliefs, and etc. And to be honest, or to be fair, and everyone can check that, that's already in our constitution, the Constitution of the Republic of Estonia. It clearly says Estonia is based on those principles. You know, so this is not aligned to any political party. It's a certain value. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay. I believe we have one question from the live audience as well. Sander? Right. Could you do some free and some paid articles? Who's going to answer that?
I mean, it kind of goes in line with the question that we had before. So thank you, Krista, for the question. I think it is a good idea, and we are contemplating doing that. We believe that the members' size, the group of supporters, needs to be a little bit larger in order for us to at least sustain Estonian World. And we would then, of course, would love to do some exclusive pieces only for our supporters, so that only they can read those stories, or videos or podcasts, or whichever format it ends up being. But we are definitely considering it, and we consider that it's a really good idea in either case to at least try. So we will at some point do that. So thank you for the question.
Do you have any more questions?
No more in the chat. We have lots of people all around the world. There's people tuning in from Prague, from Norway, from India, from Indonesia, from Mexico, from Sri Lanka. What else can we see in the chat? There's from Nepal. There's lots of people from all over the world tuning in. So thank you for that.
I would just like to say a few words also about the crisis that is in Estonia. It's almost over, but that was also a very challenging time for us as well. I mean, the coronavirus crisis. And I hope that you, our readers, you like the work we did during the crisis. The Open Estonia Foundation also emphasized that, even though they decided to give that award to us before the crisis, but they said the crisis actually proved even more, what the Estonian World can do. And here, I would just like to point out that we also discovered, again, it was a learning curve for ourselves as well, what we can do during the crisis. When the crisis started, when Estonia started the emergency situation on, I think it was 17th of March, the English language communication of the Estonian government was about 2 to 3 days behind. And I don't want to criticize them. Obviously, it's natural because there was so much going on, and they were focusing on the Estonian language communication. So Estonian World, and I'm not saying we were the only one. I would also like to mention the ERR News, which is the public broadcasting's English language service. Both us and them, we were the quickest to communicate the crisis-related information. Estonian World was the only one that started a live blog, and that itself was actually our main focus for the last 2 months, which is the reason why some of you maybe were kind of expecting a little bit more other topics as well. But as already explained here today, we have a limited manpower, limited resources. So our focus was on the coronavirus crisis, because it was important to start with for people who have come from other countries to live in Estonia, and to communicate that information in English was very important for them. But also, as we saw from the analytics or data for people outside Estonia, and that took a lot of our energy and time. In a way, it was good that I'm based in Tallinn, in Estonia, and Sten is based in Chicago, which means that we were able to run it sort of 24/7, more or less, because the time difference is, depending where you are in North America, 7 to 9 to 10 hours. We are wrapping up this blog soon, but it's been read by now, I haven't checked the latest, but by about 100,000 people all around the world. So it's been really read a lot, and it was a special blog because I think it was the most dynamic way to communicate, because we also added comments from a lot of people, pictures, etc. It's been a tough time for us as well. It took a lot of time. Every day since the emergency situation, we've been updating it every morning, checking the latest data in Estonia. So we haven't had actually day off from that since mid March, but it was a good experience for us as well, because it actually showed what we can do, and also it showed that Estonian World can play a very important part during the crisis.
Alrighty.
And
I think, unfortunately, we are running out of time, so I think it's time for us to wrap up this live event. Silver, do you have some final words?
Yeah, I would just like to say, so please make sure to check our patrons page and consider supporting us. It's very much appreciated, and of course, we would like to thank all those people who have supported us, either through Patreon or through PayPal. There are in total about 300 people at least, through Patreon, now just over 100. So we would obviously welcome also any ideas for building a better community and finding ways to keep our platform growing together. Please also make sure to sign up to our weekly email newsletter to stay tuned with new developments. And I would also like to say that we are likely to, not likely, but I think we would like to continue with the Estonian World Live. If not next week, then week after. And we would then already have other topics rather than talking about us. But I think it was important to introduce ourselves. You don't, so you can put the names and faces together also together and see who's behind it. So huge thank you, obviously, for supporting us, following us. Your support really is what really matters to us and keeps us going. Sander, perhaps did you want to add something?
Just thank you. Thank you for everybody who's been with us throughout that journey, reading us, following us, and helping us grow, and hopefully in the future also supporting us. So thank you very much for being there, and we want to be there for you as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you.